What's going on, gamers? We got an interesting video here by a guy who's a long-term Xbox fanboy, Derek Strickland. But he's pretty cool. You know, he's not like toxic or anything. The thing is, though, is that he's fed up with Microsoft. And instead of trying to see it in a more positive, maybe blinding light, he's coming out and just letting them have it in a way and saying exactly what AGN has been saying for a while, but in a different manner. We got some interesting stuff here. So there's definitely some salt farming in here. For sure. Are we ready for this? Let's get started. So here's the thing. We know that Microsoft likes to do PR, a lot of interviews, parasocial behavior, and make it seem like they care about you. But we always know there's always some hidden agenda in the long term. If you've watched this company as long as I have, since the 90s. Derek Strickland says fans were essentially fed incomplete data metrics. Ooh, man. Become a member. Leave a tip down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that hype button. Incomplete data metrics. I just want to stop right there because this is what I'm talking about. It's like saying that Game Pass did this revenue and you thought that it was making billions, but they never subtracted first party cost development, how much they were spending to subsidize, and how much it cost to make those first party games and giving you that honest subtraction. That's why you were never shown profit. You were just shown revenue, but it was fake. It wasn't what you thought it was, and everybody fell for it without realizing, do you know how this industry works? Apparently they don't. They literally wanted to go with it, and some people were just frauds, so it's nothing new. So that's why he says incomplete data metrics and PR fluff. Or you could say, like, when you're playing cards, you're bluffing. By Xbox for years to help mask how bad things were. Incomplete data, PR fluffing, parasocial behavior by Xbox for years to help mask how bad things were. Yeah, and that's why I said that the reason why this company never improved along with you, the Xbox community, and I was a part of it as long since the beginning. I'm not discluding myself, but I criticize, is because the constructive criticism for the Xbox community was always bankrupt. It was always fake gloating. And Microsoft never helped with their methods. Sure, they subsidize, but in a manner to where it's like, I think if you were more honest with your base and we have more honest data, then it would expose a lot more about just the fanboys more than just you hiding the data. By you hiding the data and doing that, you give them leeway to be more delusional. See what I'm saying? Because if you're sharing with them honest numbers, it doesn't matter what it is. Everybody knows Xbox has failed now. Satya came out and said everything. But we knew that prior to that. Why not still show the numbers? Because at that point, then you get an honest reality of how things were going on. And that gives you the idea of how you want to constructively criticize so that they could improve. But it's all avoided and it's all delusional enablement. So at that point, the Xbox base is trained like that and trained to not buy video games and get things day one on Game Pass. And was it an amazing thing to have while it was working like that? Even when I had the Xbox Series X, right? And Xbox One X. Yeah, of course. It was a great thing. $1 to get in. But what was that really doing to you in the long term? You're seeing the results here right now. It was a dream, right? And within a dream, you're in a dream. And you thought it was going to last forever. Many people get comfortable with things. Then it gets taken away from you. That's how it works. This is why you have to really see things as they are so that you can know how to actually improve and keep things stable to where your business can do well and you could actually compete. As I told people before, Microsoft killed Xbox way more than Sony did. Sony was going to beat you regardless. Same thing with Nintendo. But you could have made the game way more interesting. But instead, it was always a blowout. Besides the 360 era. FTC trial gave clues exposing the AM, which I was able to help clarify with transcripts. Hey, yeah, kudos to him. Now somehow I am to blame for wanting to hold Xbox to a higher standard. That's the thing, bro. Everything I've been telling people was like, no, we're just coming with a higher standard. And these people that do not have higher standard mentalities and are not capable of improving and helping really are okay with the way that things are going on, and they want to convince you that Xbox was doing better than ever, it was doing all this and that, but really it was never improving, and you were all being lied to. And those programs weren't real either, because you don't say you want to support different communities and different cultures and then shut it down and then play a different game a different way. That means that you were used as pawns so that they could push their agenda for what they wanted to do. I'm just saying, I got to be honest from a political standpoint, because don't tell me it's not what you think was being promoted the whole time. And I was trying to tell people about that. It's like, oh, so why are you doing this? I said, because I'm just trying to tell you what it is. And that I care about video games and not stupid politics trying to interject into video games. And that if you make a good video game, I don't care what the character looks like. If it's a real good video game and the community and the developer and the publisher all have a healthy relationship, what else could you ask for? It always was there. But Microsoft has a tendency to create these certain type of algorithms and make you think that they're going to support that and care about that. And then you find out, like I said, they always change their mind. They shut it down, and then you see the agenda behind it, what you see now. This is the real picture, meaning this is now where the Wizard of Oz curtain falls. Now you see it for what it is, not what you thought it was. See? Just the truth. So, and remember, they're the ones that did this. We're the ones that are just going deeper into it. He also says part of the standard is keeping a consistent tone with PR info. Correct. Constant interviews and talking good to you, but it's the Kool-Aid drinking in the 60s. With metrics, establishing a proper dialogue that's not inappropriate. You guys know who I'm talking about, Mr. Jimmy. Yeah, the Kool-Aid he was feeding people. Establishing a proper dialogue that's not inappropriate with both its consumers and fans. Did you see what he just said? Remember we talked about the flip-flopping, changing their mind, not being able to do anything? Keeping a consistent tone. With metrics, establishing a proper communication field that's not inappropriate with both its consumers and fans. But we don't get that from the Xbox world. It's not an easy thing to do, sure. And a lot of it is based on steady marketing, which hasn't been Xbox's strong suit. Yeah, that's why their brand is damaged and nobody wants to buy it. You can't even outsell the Switch 1. It hasn't happened in a while, and I don't think it will anymore. This includes any and all sound bites from C-suite executives. The slipshod way in which these things are spoken of has literally gotten Xbox into trouble. Seemingly exposed double speak. Keyword here, double speak. We know this all the time. Like I said, on, off, light switch, reversing this, doing that, exclusives, not exclusive, third-party publishing, this and that. It's like, you're confusing the market. You're confusing the masses. Everything is an Xbox. You don't need an Xbox. What? Don't go buy one. You can go get something else. I'm like, what are we doing here? When an executive praises X Studio and then lays them off or gives you a nice showcase and then floods you with a straight month of negative news and then tells you the deep truth. And then tells you I'm monetizing you and I'm not subsidizing anymore. Like they tried to push for something last year, a little bit earlier around this time. I say probably in about February and March after they did layoffs, and then told you that with the Activision monopoly, we're not doing any more layoffs, and that they're trying to push for a pro-consumer route, and then end up jacking up the price of the hardware 2 times and Game Pass, and dumped on everything, laid off more people, shut down some stuff, and then didn't give you any deals in the holidays, and gave you no closure for the year to where you could see things. It was no closing. It was all just like that. And then ever since then, it has not gotten better. And the new CEO came in and they fell for it again. And now we see another deeper truth. So got an Xbox into trouble, seemingly exposed double speak when an executive praises X Studio and then lays them off, cancels games the next month. This doesn't represent pre-order data. We had record numbers. They're talking about the GTA 6 defense. Yeah, this needs to be talked about. But why would you do that when you never do that historically in the past years in any field, on any game? This is what we mean by, oh, so you wanted to speak up. That's double speaking. I thought you don't do that. You're never going to talk about that anymore. You've had record orders. What does that mean, man? People should wait for real data and not clicks on affiliate links, because they were showing that PlayStation was having 8-to-1 pre-order ratios over Xbox. But they came out and says this doesn't represent pre-order data. So you always have the numbers and you're looking at it. We've had record orders, but I'm not giving you the number again. You see what I'm saying, bro? That lack of transparency is always annoying. Definitely when it's been lacking the past 6-7 years, ever since the Xbox One era, they stopped showing stuff. But you want to say that though, of course, for only GTA 6. Man, get out of here. This is not a good professional statement on the matter. IMO, he's 100% correct. It feels defensive and offensive in one go. And most of what is said is unnecessary. 100% correct. Dude, I can't begin to tell you that, like I said, when you do something like this, why don't you just be honest? That's why I like the Steam numbers. Weekly, you know, the 24 hours. You wanna know what? They're not hiding nothing. Sony's supposed to be coming out with a system similar to that in a certain extent. Except it's not gonna be as open as that, which I hope they actually go deeper into that metric system and do that. Where you see it daily, the last 24 hours, and weekly and monthly. Just do it. It gives you the idea about things. What's wrong with that? Because if games are and communities are dying, people start noticing that anyways by just playing it. So what's the point of hiding numbers? Then you could see what you need to do to improve. I'm telling you, when you're the most honest in business, you can have the most honest improvement. When you do all this he's talking about, no, it's not going to work. So going down, Vessel says, bro, you were claiming Call of Duty on Game Pass would raise permanent subs by millions. Let's not rewrite history. He did say that. But you know the funny thing is, though, a lot of people thought that. But here's what I thought. Why would a game like that was always one of the top selling games or top selling game of the year need to be put on an all you can eat buffet? That was stupid. Because you could just go buy the game. Why do I need to have Game Pass all year to play Call of Duty? I'm really spending that much more money to play Call of Duty? Then something's wrong with me then. Because if the game is $70 and Game Pass is $25 a year, so $25 a month, 3 months I've already paid for Call of Duty. Why would I keep the sub going if I'm not using it? I'll be better off just straight up buying the game. And that's what most people do anyways. And there's people that are just seasonal vets on Call of Duty. They play that game yearly, or they play a couple other games too. And they always get those same games every year. Why do they need to consistently pay for the sub? That's where I didn't understand. They didn't see that. Because I kind of felt like the Activision monopoly is just to put your stamp as a strong publisher, to make it seem like your publishing is better than it is. But all it was a monopoly to spend a whole bunch of money to make you look better than what you actually are. Because your true publishing was before you monopolized, because you couldn't build. Nintendo publishing is God tier because they've been doing that for 40 straight years, dominating insanely through their own development. Whereas Microsoft got worse over time after the 360 era, and their publishing was so weak that nothing was selling on Xbox. They had to go to PC to make it seem like their publishing could raise up. You see what I'm saying? And then they went and bought Call of Duty and added those publishing stats so that you could see them as one of the number 1, number 2, number 3 publisher. But realistically, you failed. You went and grabbed corporal money pool to boost your vanity look by hanging on to Call of Duty's history. And same thing with Bethesda. You see what I'm saying? That's why I say that realistically, if you are really as good as that, then you would have been able to do that internally in-house. But they couldn't. This is where you realize how good Nintendo actually is. Sony's able to always get up in publishing too. Man, they put some of their games on PC, but at least there's a balance there. PlayStation games do get up there, and Sony's publishing can be pretty solid because they know how to build relationships and get partnerships. And the money hats were working for them. But PlayStation publishing was never trash. It always was pretty solid. Nintendo publishing is on another level, and everybody knows this historically. This is when you realize the power of first party and making your hardware attractive outside of third party. Otherwise, people were saying prior to this, PC is dominating because you could just make more powerful rigs and play third party at 60, 120 frames per second and mod it and get it cheaper and not pay for online. If it's a multiplayer game, if it's single player games, which most people play, then you don't have to worry about online or free to play. But I could understand that mentality when it was working. Now it's just too bad and too overpriced that you can't really say nothing on any market besides the Nintendo market, which is the best. Because it's $20 for a year of online. Okay? And I can take it on the go. And it's $4.49. And tons of exclusives. So Sony started to realize that, just like they're realizing, I need a handheld in my ecosystem because Nintendo has that hybrid model and I could have a closed ecosystem with multiple PlayStation devices. Not on PC and not saying this is a PlayStation when it's not a PlayStation. It's official handheld and official PlayStation devices. So yeah, Call of Duty on Game Pass, if he thought that, which he did, he was wrong about that. And this is what he said. It should have, but we wouldn't know for sure unless Xbox shared the data. That kind of asset on a service like that should have railed subscribers. But you don't need to buy that. You don't need, no, bro. Like, to me, Game Pass is good for games that are not online. That you could be one and done with more than anything. If it's a game that you constantly need to play online and you're going to be playing it all year, why would you pay for a sub for that? Unless you just wanted to max it out and be done and you already had a subscription and you went in and grabbed it anyways. Okay. But also remember, we started to learn about cannibalization effects around the same time as the merger via Discovery docs. I get what he's saying, but then at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to say to him on this, it doesn't matter, bro, because Call of Duty should have never went on Game Pass. You ruined the mentality of people by putting the biggest game that was successful commercially on an all-you-can-eat buffet service. You wouldn't do that, Bobby. But it's what Bobby Kotick told Sata. You don't know what you're doing. He's correct. You don't do that. It's it's like if Destiny 3 came out. Why would you want that on Game Pass? Grand Theft Auto. Why would you want that on Game Pass? Why the hell would that game need to be put on a subservice? You see what I mean? Mario Kart or any Nintendo game, they're never gonna do that because they understand that that's unhealthy for the industry in general. That I don't have a problem with Game Pass, but I would have never said all my games day one. The minimum I would have done is said, okay, after 6 months. That's the minimum. Sony said 1 year plus. They were smart. That's what I would go with. J-Dub says, damn, so all these years my brother Post Up SOG has been reporting false information from Xbox and was a pawn in the fake news agenda of Microsoft. Damn, I knew it. 100%. He's right. Yeah, of course. Those guys are... You got to be when you're in that position because look at how it's been formed. It's not good. Gareth Davies says, who said you are to blame? Xbox has been clear for years that they don't share internal sales data, but you did before. While I understand why they do that, I can also see how it causes confusions, but they are absolutely doing the right thing in terms of shutting down misinformation. How do you know it's misinformation? You believe this company? All they've been doing is giving you PR misinformation. And what I mean by that, well, if you're not showing me the full truth, I'm misinformed still. You're going to be this little sliver to make me believe this. I'm misinformed still. You're not being 100% transparent with me. Spock says, Derek, you're either with console fanboys or against them. There's no middle ground. A huge part of why Xbox ended up in this mess is that too many people refused to hold them to a higher standard and made excuses every step of the way. Yeah, and gripped it on top of it and act like there was no problems going on. So we kind of get the idea right here. Let me know what you guys think about this. Become a member, leave a tip down below, like, comment, and subscribe. As usual, AGN is just trying to tell you, when you think about what I'm saying, everything he just said, I've been talking about this for a while, it makes sense. But it's good seeing somebody who supported Xbox for such a long time come out and actually say how he actually feels. And he wasn't being toxic or anything. He's just saying, hey, man, things need to change. But at this point, we know where it's going. But as gamers, do we want any gaming aspect to die? No. But it's not our fault. Your fault will be not doing what AGN is doing. Just saying. Later.